In this video I'm going to show you how to download a copy of WordPress and install it onto a local machine, in this case on a Mac. But the process that I'm going to show you, you can easily do for Windows obviously. And you can even now actually use the same software, which is MAMP, which only used to be available for Mac, but you can actually get it for Windows now. And it just makes the whole process really simple. So the first job that we need to do is download a copy of WordPress. So if you go to wordpress.org and click on download and download yourself a copy of the latest version of WordPress. And just to sort of give you a little bit of background into WordPress, WordPress is just a blogging platform really, and CMS, content management system. Well, I say a blogging platform. It started off as a blogging platform, but it's definitely now a CMS. And you can build it. You can build pretty much any website with it. WordPress is constructed using PHP, and it uses a database to power it. So that's just give you a little bit of a background. I will do another video that talks in more detail and just sort of shows you around WordPress, but this is just to get a sort of local copy working. And the reason why you would want to develop locally is it's just quicker basically, rather than developing online, and you don't need hosting. There's a few reasons actually, not just that it's quicker. Because you're working on a local machine, you don't need internet access, you're not waiting for the speed of the internet, it's just your local machine, so it's much faster. And plus you don't need hosting or anything like that. You can just work locally, and you can just work until develop the website and then launch it once you're ready. So we'll go on to wordpress.org and we'll click download WordPress. That's the first job, and we'll also download a copy of MAMP. I won't cover the actual installation of MAMP because it's dead straightforward. The MAMP version that I'm going to show you though is the Pro version, which is a little bit easier to use, I think. So if you can, I'd recommend that you do go Pro. So anyway, I'll download WordPress and I've downloaded MAMP. So I've installed MAMP, and I've got MAMP in my dock. So we'll just open MAMP. The icon's down here, look, this little elephant. So we've got MAMP running, and I've downloaded WordPress. So we'll just get WordPress. It's just in my downloads. That's just as it comes. Now I've started MAMP Pro, and the only thing that you need to do with MAMP Pro is just make sure it's set to use the default. This option here, set ports to 80 and 443, and the reason why you do that is just so you can run on localhost without having to have like it's quite hard to explain actually. You do it so you don't have to have like a / in the URL. There's no point going into it actually. Just set it to that and it makes it life a lot easier. So okay, we've downloaded WordPress, we've got MAMP working. Now we'll install WordPress and get it working. So we'll create a folder on this desktop called website. Imagine this can be anywhere on your hard drive, and probably not putting it on your desktop is a really good idea actually. Cause you wouldn't, obviously you'd never do that. You'd normally have it in like documents or wherever you want to put it. So we've created a folder called website. So all we need to do now is copy the contents of the WordPress that we've just downloaded from wordpress.org. So I'll just take everything from there and copy it into that folder. Well, I'll just move it in this case actually. And then now all we need to do is set up a server within MAMP Pro. So I'll just click on this little plus symbol down here and I'll just give it a name. So I'll just call it test.dev. And it is worth putting .something. It doesn't have to be .dev, it could be .anything, but I would do .something. There is a good reason behind that. I won't go into it now, but just do it like that. And then all you need to do then is point MAMP to that folder that we've just created on this desktop. So we'll just click this little button down here and just guide it to the desktop, website, choose, and then say save, and then say start servers now, and then you'll just have to put in your password. This is just your standard Mac password, by the way. Right. The only other thing we need to do now is create a database for the data to live in. Now MAMP Pro now comes with to explain what MAMP is as well, what it does is it sort of pretends that it's a server, or acts as a server would do, so it serves PHP, which obviously you can't do locally without having a server. And it also has a MySQL database as well, which obviously you can't do without something like MAMP. So it basically just acts as a web server just on your machine. And fairly recently anyway, they've started bundling it with PHP MyAdmin and SQL Pro. I think PHP MyAdmin's been with it a while actually, but SQL Pro is fairly new. So we'll click on SQL Pro and we'll launch that. And we'll just, when you do that, it just connects locally to your MySQL database. And then we'll choose to create a database. So we'll say add database, and we'll just say test underscore DB. This can be called anything really. It doesn't have to be called, you know, whatever. Obviously, if the site's for some company, you know, be what, you know, whatever company, Smith's Cleaners database or whatever. Just keep it fairly short though, and then just say add. So we've added a database. We've created a database there, but we obviously haven't put anything in it yet. But at least we've got a database going. So all we need to do now is tell WordPress about that database. So if we come into our website files, so we're just going here, and what we need to look for is a file here called wp-config-sample. That just needs to be renamed to wp-config. And that's where you tell WordPress about the database. So we'll just open that up in a text editor. Obviously you can use any editor that you're comfortable with. And then all we need to do now is just put in the specifics of the database. So there's just a few other things that we need to do as well. WordPress as a security measure comes with what they call these salts, which are just like sort of security codes. I don't know exactly what they are, but they're worth including. So all you need to do is copy this URL into your web browser and it'll give you the salts. And they're just unique to this installation. So all you need to do is just copy that and then paste them in here. It's just like a security measure. And then just save it again. And then there's a couple of other things we need to change. This settings can be quite useful. You can change the debug to true if you want to see like PHP errors and stuff. So if you ever run into problems with your installation, then you could always change that to true. I mean, you'd never have it as true on a live site, but you can do that while you're working on it. I tend, to be honest, to leave it as false generally because it can get a little bit unaware. The only thing that is worth changing in here as well is this table prefix, and this is the database table prefix. I won't go into too much detail here, but the standard, as you can see, is WP_, which is just a standard WordPress prefix. It's a really, really good security measure to change this to something else because obviously, you know, WordPress is the most common CMS on the web. Like 3/4 of the world's websites are built on WordPress, which is good. It means it's developed actively and stuff, but it also means it gets hacked a lot. And one of the easiest ways that they get in is by using like SQL injection scripts and stuff. And if you change this prefix, I'm not saying it stops that, but it definitely sort of helps. It makes it a bit tougher for them to guess what your table prefix is, basically. So we'll just change that. It could be anything at all. I mean, just literally anything that's just different to what the standard one is. I just put in whatever that is, WP12C. It could be anything. Again, just make it fairly short. And then the only other thing we need to do is just put in the name of the database, and if you remember we called it test_db in MAMP, and then we need to put in the username, which in this case is just root because it's just locally, and then I think the password is also root when it's running on localhost. I think it is. Obviously when you put this on a live website, then it's not going to be root, you know, it'll still be localhost, which is this. And obviously the database of probably whatever company name it is. And I mean, I can show you that actually how to put it on a live server in a different video, but obviously these then would be obviously a lot more secure than root. But when we're running locally, it doesn't matter. So we've told WordPress about the database now. We've set up WP-config. MAMP's working. We've got a database. We're pointing MAMP to the WordPress files. So we should now be able to install WordPress. So if we go into this host panel, we see test.dev, and then we can click on this little arrow, and that'll run WordPress. And you can see now that WordPress is prompting us to install it. So we can choose to use English. I'm just looking if there's English UK there is actually. So we'll just say continue. And what this will do is it'll populate the database then with all the tables and everything that it needs. So it does all that for you basically. So site name, we'll just call it test website. Username, I'll just use the one that I always use, which is Ricky55. Password, just go with what it recommends, nothing wrong with that. Put in an email, just leave that unchecked, there's no point in discouraging it, because it's local anyway, so it's not going to find it. And then just click install WordPress. And then just say login. And then we'll just log in using the password that we've just set. And now we're in WordPress, and it's installed and we're running locally. It looks like there's a couple of updates. Akismet is like a security measure for commenting. We don't really need to update that now, so I'll just leave that for now. The only other thing that I will show you in this video is how to install the WordPress theme. Now, WordPress does ship with I think it ships with 3 themes. Yeah, it does. You've got 2016, 2015, and 2014. Basically, a theme is just changing the way that WordPress looks. It's just like a skin. You can create your own themes, but there's loads of free ones online. There's a lot of premium ones online actually as well. I mean, there's literally endless amounts. And what's really good about a theme is it sort of separates the way that the website looks from the data. Do you know what I mean? So you can change the way it looks without affecting the content, which is really good. So if we want to install another theme, we could say add new. If we wanted to download one, oh, we could click there, add new theme. If we wanted to download one from the WordPress repository, if we wanted to. Or you can even use this method actually to upload one if you were using it on a server, but we're not obviously on a live server, so we'll just minimise my web browser for now. We'll minimise MAMP, and we're in a website folder from the desktop, look. So we'll go into WP content, sorry, not WP content, WP-content, then we'll go into themes, and they're the 3 themes that we saw in the back end of WordPress. Just to explain as well, when we say back end is like the admin of WordPress. The front end's obviously the front end is what the customer or the user would see. You know, so there's a front end and a back end, or an admin, as some people call it. So they're the 3 themes that WordPress ships with. I've actually downloaded another theme here called Garage. So all we need to do is literally just copy that or move it into the themes folder. And then if we come back into WordPress, and if we refresh the browser now, it'll pick up that theme. See there, look, we've got Garage. And then all we need to do is just say activate. And it'll guide you through a few different settings. To be honest, some of these more premium themes, which this one is, does include an awful lot of settings. I mean, to be fair, I think sometimes they go a little bit too far. They're almost like CMSs in themselves now, some of these themes. And in my opinion, they're just getting too bloated. I think they'd be better keeping them simple. They're just getting a bit too big, you know, I personally believe. I mean, some of them, they can do that many things, you know. They've got like 5 sliders and umpteen contact forms, and it's just too much in my opinion. It's like this one, it comes with what they call WooCommerce, which is a plugin for, obviously, for e-commerce. I mean, that's another thing that I should mention about WordPress. It can be extended massively through the use of plugins, which can be a blessing and a disguise. I mean, sorry, a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing, obviously, good because you can extend WordPress, which is really good, and there's some brilliant plugins, but you can get a bit, you can end up with, like, before you know it, you can easily end up with 10, 15 plugins if you're not careful, and again, it just sort of slows it down, so just be careful of that. Just looking at these plugins, actually, a low dolly is just bullshit. That's just one showing you what our plugins work, so that can be deleted, and a Kismet, again, I'll just delete it for now. So that's it, we've got a theme running. So if we want to look at now at the front end of the website, we just click, if we command click on this, obviously it'll open a new tab so we can see what the front end of the website looks like, which is great. And it's just got some dummy data in. And I won't talk about the actual data now and how WordPress works. I'll do that in another video because this video is probably already starting to get a little bit long. I'm referring to someone else now, so this is sort of outside the main scope of this video, but this theme is a theme bought on, it's a premium website called Forest Themes, something like that, I think. Let me just have a look. Yeah, I think it is Forest Themes. Oh, sorry, Theme Forest. I haven't used it for a while. And if you search for Garage on there, you'll see the theme as it can look when it's all dressed up. When I say dressed up, I mean with a slider and everything set up. And to get that working, you might just need to install, look, it's there, look, it's asking you to install plugins, you know, to get the theme supporting everything that it needs to support. Again, this is sort of separate to the main video, we're not going to be using any e-commerce, so we can I probably would install that and then just disable it. Just to get everything working and stop, you know, so it stops bugging you about things. And like I say, if you go onto this and search for the Garage theme, I'll just go in WordPress and look for it. And then you'll see how it can look, this theme, and it's got the slider and it's got all this data in and everything. And you can actually import the data. It comes with like some dummy data, which I'll give you, which can be really useful. But the only sort of downside to that is that you can end up sort of spending ages and deleting it, you know, just to get your own content in. So if you can kind of figure it out without installing that dummy data, I'd probably try to do that if you can. But if it can get a bit complicated when you haven't done many themes. But you know, if you're sort of struggling with it, then I would just install the dummy data and see how you get along with that. But like I say, if you can help it, I'd try not to. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with installing the dummy data, but like I say, you just end up sort of battling with it a little bit. You know, you'll end up installing something like 20 posts and 10 pages and numerous categories, and you just end up having to delete it all ultimately. So it can just get a little bit messy. But then again, it can help you sort of set up the theme, you know, especially if you're trying to sort of copy how you want it to look. So just bear that in mind. I think I've covered pretty much everything I wanted to cover there. Just one thing that I do always set up as well, sorry, I should just say this. That I'd always change. Obviously the tagline would just be the tagline of whatever the website is. And then one of the other most important things is permalinks. I always set that to that month and name. It's just. I mean, it doesn't have to be that, but I definitely change it from plain. I think actually plain's not the default anymore. It used to be, but I think it's day and name now. But yeah, because plain's just an awful URL, whereas that's obviously a lot nicer. Okay, I think that pretty much covers everything for now. Okay, cheers.